I don't want to give the impression that I don't prepare my work, because I do. But the director and I were on another music video right before this, and we basically wrapped it, got on a plane, and flew to this one and started shooting like 24 hours later. The previous one we had done was like very logistically intensive. There was multiple car rigs, drones, like cranes, all kinds of stuff. And so it was actually kind of really awesome to just sort of drop in, and this is a very simple story, and keep it fun in the moment. My name is Jeff Powers. I'm a cinematographer, and I shoot all sorts of things from feature films to commercials, documentaries, and also music videos. I started out in younger days as a musician. That clearly didn't work out. But this was like a very easy fit. Like it kind of combined all the things I liked about that in something that is doing much better for me. I got into cinematography because it combined my interest in creativity and technology, and then collaboration. It kind of does all three. I like shooting music videos because there really aren't many constraints. And so you can kind of just go for whatever is interesting to you, so long as everyone's on board. Like I'm not like going rogue on people's projects, but like the only rules are the ones that you come up with, which is fun. We're gonna talk about the music video Fear for the artist Logic. It's a loose narrative music video. It's not a performance music video. It's a day in the life of a drag queen, and we just sort of go through this person's life and their experience. It combines like documentary style with also sort of like a more joyful, like whimsical dance sort of thing. So that's like an interesting juxtaposition that way. I have been working with the director Andy Hines on and off for many years. He has done a couple videos for Logic in the past. This was my first time working with Logic, but Andy's like a regular collaborator, so it was good to get at it. We shot the video on a red Komodo X, which is a favorite camera of the director. In this case, it was kind of a good choice for us because it is such a small form factor. It made a lot of this sort of quicker, smaller setups, a lot of the handheld work, just really loose and easy. In the first Komodo, you couldn't, slow motion and anamorphic didn't really, I forget what it topped out at, but it was not a satisfying number. But with the X now, you can shoot anamorphic up to like 72 or whatever. So it was a good choice. It was a small little baby bird that did everything we needed it to. I think the video lent itself to being filmed anamorphic because it was such a day in the life story that the contrast of the anamorphic frame and the anamorphic depth of fields. The anamorphic field is one that at least I associate with, 70s, 80s, big cinema, and up until now, it's like that is cinematic, classically cinematic look. And so putting that into a more loose, handheld, day in the life style, it like elevated this character to someone out of a movie as opposed to someone in their normal life. I've shot Atlas Glass quite a bit, so it is something that I am comfortable with, that I like. I know how they work, and I think it's like a reliable set of lenses. For this one, we actually used the Mercuries, which I love the look of, and amongst other things, the form factor. Like I said, we have this small camera, and then we have this small anamorphic lens, and we could just kind of pick the camera up and put it wherever we wanted or operate it however we wanted. So it really just kind of made sense. In my opinion, I love all of your lenses, but I think I generally enjoy the way they look even more so than the Orions. For Fear, we had just three. We had the 36, 42, and 72. They look great. Like I think one of the things that I sometimes, it's not a struggle, but it's like it takes a little bit of time, and people don't always have the time, but the close focus on them is great in a way that doesn't necessarily eliminate the need for diopters, but it makes them, much less frequently pulled out of the bag. When you gotta go to a diopter and then particularly on a music video, you gotta stop that, and then someone's like, oh, can we rack to the background? And the answer is no. So the close focus is great. The close focus on the 36 is dangerous. Like, there's gonna be a lot of cracked front elements, I think, keeping shots exciting. But yeah, I think I like the 42. I think that's probably the one that I grabbed the most out of the set, but I am excited to see some of the longer ones as well. We shot the video in January in Portland. We shot for 2 days. So the first day we did all the stuff in the house and the scene at the diner and the driving work. And then the second day we did all of basically the second half of the video, all the dressing room and club stuff. Yeah, most of my music videos are 1 to 2 days. It's kind of hard to stretch it more than that. Yeah, and this kind of was a stretch to get it to 2 days, but because we're telling this drag story, Taj, better known as Flawless, just totally let us in to his life. It's like a very open and kind of brave thing that happened there. So the scene where you see where he's putting on makeup and becoming Flawless, that was the actual process, and it takes some time. So there was really just no way to do that video in 1 day for Flawless's process alone. So at that point we sort of like leaned into like, okay, how can we contract everything down and make it a 2-day? The crew is relatively small. We had my normal first AC, Jared Winberg, came with us, which was great, and we had a second AC. And the second day we had Steadicam for the club. Yeah, that's kind of it. Otherwise, it was just small G&E team and us. Yeah. I think it's like the video's visually appealing. I'm happy with the work that we did. It's a fun video, and I didn't necessarily know that until we started filming. The first thing that we filmed was one of the first scenes in the video where Taj is in the kitchen, like cleaning up and cooking breakfast and stuff like that. And once we started rolling, and Taj was just so into it and dancing, that then my operating became like super loose. I think that's the moment that everyone knew, like, okay, we're gonna have fun. Like, this is gonna be a fun video. And I think that comes through. So I'm really actually proud of how the good, fun, open atmosphere on set kind of comes through in the video, which is great. This was the last thing that we shot after all the club stuff because of Flawless's, heavy prep time for makeup. We actually had to shoot all the club stuff and then travel back to the house location. So it was a bit of everyone's like, are we gonna make it? Do we have enough time? We have to wrap on time, all this. So we got there and it was like we gotta do this now sort of situation. But it's such a wonderful moment at the end of the day. This whole big event's happened and it's just Flawless, on her own. And so I wanted to give that frame a more ethereal, like a bigger feel, because everything else was so rooted in reality. And so we introduced more stylized, colorful lighting, and it's this like stark, empty room with the curtains fluttering. And the curtains fluttering took a lot of work to find the right combination of windows and doors to open in the house to get them to flow. Sometimes interesting what you need to be an expert on in the moment. But yeah, the lighting setup was actually pretty simple. We had 2 units outside the windows. One was, I believe, a vortex, and then the other was just a old-fashioned 1K, if you can believe it. And then inside it was just one tube rigged from the ceiling above in that sort of contrasting cool color, and that was it. So it was very, very simple setup, but the color contrast was something that we hadn't done when Taj was first in the house, and now it's Flawless, so it needed more. And so that's another example of how I was saying, as opposed to doing a traditional prep, I sort of just brought these ideas and references along with me to just grab from if the situation arose. And it's all kind of coming from wherever, but this one was kind of from this, which is a painting, which is cool. I should say that, not that I don't ever reference other cinematographers or films or whatever, because we all do. But if I can pull a reference from a different medium. I prefer to do that because you can't copy it. You need to interpret it, even if it is also another visual medium. What I like about it is it has a pose that is very in line with some of like the Vogue style dancing that Flawless is doing. And so I thought that was maybe something that I should have in the top of minds. But it also has this like wild color explosion in it that, like I said, we had not really been doing. Because even the club scene, the lighting is very controlled, at least in its hues. It's all pretty 2-3 different colors light. So this was like something else different. And so the idea kind of was to pull that sort of explosive color. The shots from the beginning of the video where Taj is dancing in the house, going through his day. He's sort of just freeform dancing. The idea for all of those scenes in my mind was to just bring the light from outside. It's a very sparse location. There's not a lot of set decoration or furniture or anything, so it lent itself to these big open shots. And plus, you want to see it moving. You want to have the opportunity to see those wides. So as a result, kind of like the thought process with the lighting was, it's okay to keep it more in pockets. It's okay to let things fall off. Then to get that lighting, it's kind of like a bit of like a higher contrast but soft thing, which can be a little tricky to pull off. There's a photographer, Daoud Bey, who's always has this sort of like high contrast thing to his work that I like, or also puts exposures like way down. It's a very exciting look. And so once I realized like, hey, well, I want to give Taj the freedom to move around the space, so I can't be putting lights and flags everywhere. Everything's going to kind of mostly come from outside. Let's get into this. Let's let some things fall way down. Let's have some things be almost all the way up at the top of exposure. What made it click to light this shot in this style of the photo, was the pose of this photo is so dramatic, it's so big, and it's so similar in a way to how Taj was dancing that I think that drew the connection. And then the very next setup is the one in the living room, sequentially as we shot it. And so I was like, well, let's bring some light in. Let's make it slice a little lower so it doesn't necessarily always even light his face, because sometimes lighting faces is boring. But he did oblige us by dipping down. He found his light for that shot, so he knows what's going on. So the climax of the video, Flawless, has arrived, and so she walks on stage. I'll take a step back. One of the inspirations of the video should always be, if you're doing a music video, is the song itself. It's surprising the number of times I need to ask, like, can you please send me the song? I have to, like, I don't know what we're doing. We're making a visual for a soundtrack. Logic's song is it's like a very upbeat dance track for the first half, and then the second half is a very downbeat, slower tempo thing. When I was discussing the treatment with the director, Andy Hines, I was like, well, how are you seeing this? Because we're building up to this big performance at the end, but the track like drops way down in intensity. And so then the concept became like, let's do slow motion. Let's really make it dramatic, like a little more lush, and sort of elevate it beyond the reality-based sort of photography we're doing. We shot it in a real club, and fortunately we had a little bit of time to load in and pre-light it, but it was still very scrappy. The moving lights, that is me. The lovely people at the facility claimed that they were going to bring in a board operator that they work with, and they may have, however, needed a little more help. So that was actually really, that was cool. I was controlling the board myself, which I normally would not do, and I'm not skilled at. But I knew the song, I knew the feel, so it was kind of nice to be able to be hands-on in that way. So we had sort of the row of the different movers on stage, and then off stage, just like the most classic Leco follow spot setup. But anyway, we had a couple LED lights out doing some color changes. We like a vortex doing a sort of like occasional flash here and there, because I really like that effect of keeping it all dark, but little pops here and there where you reveal the crowd or what have you. Curtain in the backgrounds and Flawless's costume were interacting very well with this hard front light, plus the anamorphic lenses, plus the diffusion on. It's just everything is just catching little pieces here and there. And I think that really sort of elevates this full reveal. Because you've seen her in the dressing room, but this is the moment. I don't know, it would be interesting. I don't really know how to get into it without like getting into it. Because like some people hate the video, if you can imagine why. Just, you know. Especially for an artist who has made, like his whole deal is everyone's welcome, and a lot of his videos have that like at the core of them. Like people do not want to go along this time, which is unfortunate, but not surprising, which is also unfortunate. No, let's not talk about that. That's negative. It was a cool project to be a part of. We got to do stuff that I really enjoy doing, which is when appropriate, working fast, keeping it, you know, light and tight. There's a lot of fun handheld operating in there, which I enjoy doing. And then we got to contrast that with the Steadicam at the end. So like there's, you know, as the camera moves at a higher frame rate, camera motion is smoother as well on the platform. And, you know, it was just like a lot of fun improvisation from Taj, Flawless, to myself, to the lighting team, to the director. Like it was just kind of like everyone was on for 2 days, which I really appreciate because, you know, it all sort of came together.